Hello, 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 and welcome. This week we are going to talk about Love After Lockup, season 7, season 5, episode 37. We're going to do a recap. So, this episode starts off with Shantae, and True. Now, the episode prior to this one, it ended with Shantae and True. And that is where Shantae revealed to True that she had something to tell him. She revealed that she was pregnant, not with one baby, but with two, because she was pregnant or is pregnant with twins at the time of the filming. And True said, "Okay, I'm coming down there." And she's like, "True, don't come." And he said, "No, I'm coming there." "True, don't come. I'm coming." Keep in mind, though, we also learn that True has a roommate situation. Now, who is this roommate? How he know this roommate? What's the relationship between him and this roommate? We also learn at the end of the last episode that he had a falling out with his mom because I believe the woman's name is Jasmine, don't quote me, but I believe the woman's name is Jasmine, told the mom something and he said the mom believed her. And so he wasn't staying with he wasn't staying at his mom's house anymore, hence why he is living with said roommate. So now I'm wondering, does he want to see Shantae because he needs a stable place to live? Because True is still on paper. I think he's on parole or probation. Either way, he needs to be at a certain type of address, okay? And so is Shantae gonna provide that for him? Is this the reason why he's like, "I'm coming to see you"? Keep in mind, during that same episode, he told her, "Look, I don't think now is the time," I'm paraphrasing here, "now is the time for me to be exclusive." He said that's not what he was looking for. Now, keep in mind, True, even though his age is 31, True is not really 31. Hear me out, hear me out. He's not really 31. True went in, he was arrested and he has been incarcerated since he was about 17, 18 years old. He was incarcerated for over a decade. So he's not 31. He's still this young man. He has the mentality of that little boy, of that older adolescent who was incarcerated. Now, this is not to demean him in any kind of way. It just is what it is, right? This is no secret. He went in at a particular age, and he might not be, like I said, 31, fully developed to 31. So, what does that mean? That means it's not surprising that when once he was released, he was out here seeing what things was about and want to dip it and do it and whatnot. And he told her, "Look, I don't think that I am ready to be exclusive." Now, keep in mind, this is after they done did some adult activities, okay? Hence why homegirl is pregnant and they only had adult activities one time. But it was unprotected. He just came home and she had unprotected adult relations with him. And that resulted in a pregnancy. Again, not just one child, but she is having twins. So, okay, fast forward this most recent episode, episode 36, I believe, or 37. True is making his way to Shantae. But before he goes to Shantae's house, he hits up a grocery store. After driving, I believe he said 5 hours, he hits up a grocery store because he said he want to have a cook off with Shantae. He wants to cook with Shantae because when he was in a joint, he was a chef. He was a top chef, and he could show her that he could make anything from anything. This man made this woman an omelet, and she was like, "Don't even do that again." She said, "Do not do that again." It wasn't hitting on anything. Okay, she didn't like it very much, but once he got to her house and keep in mind, so he shows up, he's banging on the door. Boom, boom, boom. She opens the door. She's like, "What you want, True?" He's like, "You gonna let me in?" After banging on the door twice. Boom, boom. Okay. So She, of course, lets him in. He cooks for her. He makes the omelet. She's like, this ain't it. Then she asks, were you seeing anybody when we were on a break, essentially? He goes, oh, was I talking to somebody when I wasn't talking to you? Yeah. And so in his confessional, he says, I just want to be honest with her. Of course, we know there's more to the story because, again, who is this roommate, True? Who is this roommate? So they have some things to figure out because, again, he was incarcerated for over a decade. He went in when he was really young. He is, I imagine, he's going to want to experience certain things. And I imagine it's going to be difficult for him to be the man that she is expecting him to be. And again, this is no shade, no tea toward True. Okay. So we'll probably get back to them. I want to move on and I want to talk a little bit about Troy and Zariah. Zaria. We're going to go with Zariah. I think that's how you say her name. Did you notice how they tend to say her name differently? Or was that me? So we're going to call her Zariah. We might shorten that. But for now, Zariah. So, okay, Zariah and Troy. Now, hear me out. Troy seems like a decent dude who, because of certain circumstances, ended up making certain decisions. We know that he and his mom don't have the best of the best relationship. She gave him up, or she gave sent him to live with I could think a family member when he was really little. So she didn't raise him. She was out there, in the streets. She was out there living her life, involved in some things. I believe there's a history of substance abuse there. And so Troy ended up making some decisions, and he was incarcerated, and he was another one who I believe was in and out of the system. I'm bringing this up because he has this distant, not really close relationship to his mom. Like, he didn't even really want the mom to come and stay at their house. He was like, "Oh, really?" So he has this fractured relationship with his mom, and then on top of that, his wife Zariah, she doesn't she seems problematic to me. And when I say problematic, I'm not saying Troy is an angel. He clearly got some things going on. It sounds as if he is divulging more information than Zariah feels comfortable with his ex. So there's something there. But I don't like the way she speaks to him. Day two of him being out of prison, this is a previous episode, she had the man sleeping on the couch. She reacts to things and she goes from 0 to 100 real quick. And her react and doing so with her type of reaction, it's as if she doesn't even give him a chance to actually speak. And maybe it's because of the stuff we don't see. Maybe she is just fed up because, of course, this is a show. It has a lot of edits. So I'm giving this recap based off of what we see. And based off of what we see, I'm like, dag, can she be a little more understanding? Can she take a step back? Can she speak to him with a little more respect? So, in this most recent episode, they are allegedly going from her home in Syracuse to his daughter's home in Buffalo. They were supposed to visit his daughter. He has not seen his daughter since she was about 7 months old. She's now 7. She said, and Sarai is like, I don't want to make this about me. Why do I have to go? You could go see her. And he said, because I talked to my daughter and she said she wants to meet you. And she said, I don't want to put your daughter in this drama because, of course, there's dramas. Zariah feels some kind of way about Troy's daughter's mother. So the mother of his child, Zariah feels some kind of way about her. So there is some tension there. And Zariah, it just comes off as if she's making this about her. And I'm like, yo, does Troy have a chance? Does he, between his mama and his wife, because his mama was cutting up. Oh, during the last episodes, homegirl took a gummy before church. She was in church, wanted to leave church. She said it was doing something to her spirit. She wanted to leave. She out in the parking lot, like, I'm ready to go. I'm like, ma'am, y'all drove together. So where are you going unless you are going to Uber? Where are you going? So you could tell the mom still, she may not be, and this is not to talk bad about her, but she may not be all that healthy for him. And as I watch Troy and Zariah, I'm wondering, how healthy is this relationship? Remember, though, in the last episode, Zariah went to her psychic, and her psychic said, this ain't gonna last. This ain't gonna work. And I think Zariah is attaching to that so much that she's sabotaging, because they have potential here within their relationship. I just want to see her work on how she talks to him. It's very disrespectful, very demeaning. Like, she barks at him, and I'm like, "Ooh, wait a second. Why are we doing that?" He seems, the way he, speaks to her, again, this is based off of what we saw. He seems to be more chill, more mellow. He's like, "Come on, like, what you doing? You need me to help you pack?" No, just worry about what you gonna bring. So then he goes missing. He had enough. So he's there one minute, gone the next, and he's going for a walk. And you can see they break the fourth wall. The show's producers are talking to him, and they're like, "What's going on? You have anything to tell her?" And he's like, "No, there's nothing going on." He's like, "But I needed to just get away." Now, this is a common theme, because we also have Arthur and Hope. Arthur and Hope. What do you think about Arthur and Hope? Hope Arthur went out and was spending time with his mom. Hope did not like that. She's like, "Look, if we supposed to be together and we're supposed to be spending time together, I don't care if it was Jesus. I don't want you out there. I want you with me." And I'm like, you got to be a little bit, I want you to be more understanding of what he might be going through. The same thing with Zariah. Be understanding about what he might be going through. This is not to make excuses to say, hey, don't address what comes up, but let's be mindful about how we address it. Let's be mindful about what your partner's needs might be, especially with this type of situation. These people were incarcerated for years. That does something to you. Make a long story short, Hope has not told her family, she has not told her sisters about Arthur. He feels some kind of way because when she was on the phone, she was FaceTiming one of her sisters, and he was coming closer and was talking to her. She kind of did like this, like, "Stop." He's saying, what are you doing? I'm grown. Why would you do that to me? You don't want me to meet your family?" And she goes, "I just don't want this to ruin the mood." He said, "Why? I'm in my element." They were in the fabric store. He was looking at fabrics because he wants to be a designer. And that kind of just ruined the mood a little bit, because he feels as if she's hiding him, which, I mean, she is. So fast forward, they are back in Hope's apartment. There's more that I can say about Hope and Arthur. Maybe we'll save that for another video. But fast forward, they're back in Hope's apartment, and he's helping to put something together. He says, "By the way, I was looking for some of my old designs and my old letters, and I came across this picture with you and some dude." She's like, "Oh, yeah." Like, "And you did?" Because it's my house. "You did." She's like, "Yeah, that's an old picture. There's nothing there. Do you want me to throw it away?" He's like, "Nah, you're good." But clearly you can see he's not okay with it. However, he's having a hard time expressing himself. So she says that to him. "Hey, I want you to be able to talk." I'm paraphrasing. "I want you to be able to talk to me about your emotions. What's up? What's going on?" He's like, "Nah, we're good." She keeps asking him questions, and he's doing his best to explain to her the difficulty of expressing his emotions. And then in a confessional, he says he had a hard time being himself when he was incarcerated. He said, "People like me, they would eat you up alive." And so expressing his emotions is difficult for him, because where he was, that could be taken as a sign of weakness. And a lot of people think that, which we know is not true. We want a healthy relationship with our emotions, and we want to be able to express them in a healthy way. There's nothing wrong with expressing your emotions. Now, we know this, right? Okay, cool. At some point, he says he needs to take a minute. He goes for a walk. So he and Troy, they are going for these walks, which I think is great. However, with Arthur, it was more than just going for a walk. He mentioned before in one of his confessionals, one of the confessional scenes, that he might be experiencing PTSD. And he was having a moment where it looked like No, I don't know him. I'm not diagnosing him. I'm not diagnosing any of them because I haven't met them. This is my disclaimer. I haven't met them. I haven't treated any of them. I'm going purely off of what we see and making some generalizations. Boom, that's out of the way. It looked as if he was starting to become flooded with emotion and maybe flashbacks. There were certain memories, there were things that were coming up for him in that moment. He needed, so his alarm systems were activated and he needed a second to collect himself. Maybe he needed some air, right? He needed to remove himself from that particular situation. So he goes outside. He says, some of the workers look like demons, and you could kind of see him freeze. So a few of his internal alarm systems were activated. So it goes from that flight response to that freeze response. And what it looks like is it's an example, his behavior in that scene is an example of dissociation, where it didn't look as if he was fully present in his body. And now there were some other things based off of what he said that appeared to be coming up. I won't say it right now because he's not my client. Um, but it did look like dissociation, which is not uncommon if a person is experiencing PTSD or, other severe forms of anxiety. So it looked like PTSD. It looked like some anxiety was happening in that moment and that he wasn't fully present. Now, this show, again, is full of edits, but it seemed like one of the more real moments in reality TV. And while I'm not happy that he experienced this, I do think there is some benefit to it being shown because he was talking about some of the trauma he had experienced. He talked about watching somebody who was unalived essentially, and it's difficult to have those experiences and just go along with like your normal life, your normal way of living. And unfortunately, a lot of us have come from communities and places where certain things have become normalized, like watching somebody become unalived. And then people don't deal with that trauma. There are people right now who you might know who may have had some lived experiences, right? Where they have been a part of different things and been involved in different circumstances, and they may have seen violent acts occur and then didn't deal with it because they're like, man, it just happens. It happens. This is not the first time. And so you try and make it sound normal, but this is not healthy. And so because you try and normalize it, you don't deal with it. So I thought this was a really powerful scene with Arthur. You heard him talking on the phone with his mom. She was working to calm him down. And you could see the more he spoke with his mom, the more grounded he became. There was a moment where he didn't really want to hug Hope because he was trying to figure out, it looked like what was real and what wasn't, because he didn't seem to be in his body. He didn't seem to be fully present. And so there was a moment where Hope tried to hug him and he's like, no. And she was like, you don't want to hug me? And you could tell you could see the look of concern, the look of fear and frustration, because also she seemed confused by what was happening. And so anyway, this appeared to be a real scene that can serve as a reminder to people to make sure you get help. Talk about some of the things with a professional, a licensed therapist who you may not have been able to you talk about some of those traumatizing events and gain skills to be able to help you to live a healthy life, because that is absolutely possible. Some of the things, like I said before, that we've normalized, just because it's normal doesn't mean it's healthy. So that moment, I really connected with that because some of the work that I do in my history is working as a clinician. I've worked with people who were incarcerated, and so this is definitely a population that I enjoy working with. And there are a lot of resources. I'm not going to get on a soapbox right now, but there are a lot of resources that are available, but also, programs that I wish existed. So if somebody give me some grant money, I'm telling you, I will redefine reentry services. Okay. That's Hope and Arthur. When the episode as the episode was going off, the show made mention that they had stopped recording with him, they had stopped filming with him, and they had offered Arthur some services, mental health services. I really hope that he participated in the mental health services. I hope that he found a clinician and program that would benefit him from working through some of his PTSD symptoms. And next, let's talk a little bit about Julian and Christine. Oh, Julian and Christine. He says that finances have become difficult for him because he has been paying a lot for Christine. He is paying, housing expenses. He was, I believe, sending her money, but also he is paying for lawyers to help deal with the situation regarding her kids, regarding custody. What irks me about Christine is that when she was in West Virginia, which is where her son is specifically, and then she has twins, but I'm not really sure what's going on with that situation. She was in West Virginia, that's where her son is, and the son is living with his grandmother, with Christine's mother, that's who has custody. Christine didn't go see him. Christine didn't go see him because Christine said she didn't want to be bothered with her mother. The same mother who's taking care of your son. Cool, you don't want to be bothered with your mom. I get it. However, reach out to your mom to see if you can see your son. Did you do that? Because that's not what was shown. And then she's like, I don't really want to leave and I don't really want to leave my son. You didn't try to see him, Christine. Why not try to see him? I get it. There's some history between you and your mom, but at the end of the day, your relationship with your child is what is most important. So I was really disappointed in that part. Also, Christine, is it me or is she kind of boastful about robbing six banks? Which also we find out that she only made like $2,000 or $3,000. I'm like, girl, robbing six banks and that's what you walked away with, and you spent years in prison for, and then you spent additional time in prison because you got violated because of probation. You only walked away with $2,000 or $3,000. Ma'am, you could have done Uber. You could have done Uber Eats, but okay, maybe because she was in her addiction, so maybe she wasn't going to do Uber Eats. But you could have done something to get the same amount of money and not end up in prison. And so she, during the one of the other episodes, she tells us, how do you rob the bank? Like, what's considered robbing the bank? All you got to do is slide them something that says XYZ on it. I'm like, girl. Anyway, so at this point, Christine and Julian are in Julian's hometown. Can't remember right now, but that's where they are. And she is upset with Julian. She's upset when Julian starts to talk about money. She goes, he and his ex wife live this lavish lifestyle, and their kids go to private school and they get to take vacations because that's what he did with his ex-wife, and it's his money. He gets to say, hey, this makes me uncomfortable, or hey, I want you to start working, which is what he said to her. And she's like, start working? Take care of me. Now I get it, she just came home, so it's gonna require some time before she actually finds a job. She's like, do you know how hard it is for a felon to find a job? Yes, Christine, it is in fact hard. You rob them damn banks for $2,000 or $3,000. Okay, but no, it is difficult. I'm not going to take that away from her. It absolutely is difficult. And yet, I imagine Julian would like for you to at least try, Christine. Did you put a resume together? Did you go to maybe a workshop to learn some skills, get updated on a few things that maybe you're not aware of because you were away? Have you tried to apply to a job? A little effort would be great, Christine. Christine, she's making excuses. I hear a lot of excuses. So it's going to be interesting to watch the unfolding of Julian and Christine, because we see a preview for the upcoming episode where she's like, he's a bad liar. I'm like, oh, Julian, what you lie about? What did you lie about, Julian? What did you lie about? So, okay. That is Julian and Christine. Let's see. We next up, Letitia and Keith. Oh, Letitia. She listen, she has Keith's back. Homegirl be knocking down doors for Keith. When that last episode, she showed up at that paralegal's office and she's like, "What's up? Because we paid you. What's up? What's happening with my husband?" Letitia. Unfortunately, she finds out that because she goes to see her attorney, and he is honest per usual, and he tells her, this doesn't say a law was changed. This does say the way that they sentence folk has changed, but he may not qualify. Keith may not qualify. He only has 8 months left on his sentence. Who told you this? Who wrote this brief for you? And he goes, let me guess, a paralegal. Let me guess, formerly incarcerated. I was rooting for Ben, but even though Ben is the paralegal, when I was watching the scene with him in the previous episode, I was like, Ben, you got to be mindful how you present yourself, because if you're a paralegal, there are certain things that you can and cannot do because you're not an attorney. You're not an attorney. But nonetheless, he's doing what he can do. However, it seems to be different from what Letitia's, I hope that's how you pronounce her name. If not, my bad, girl. Um, it's different from what Letitia's attorney is saying. So we'll see. I hope that things work out in their favor, in Keith's favor. Unfortunately, she heard that her husband wasn't coming home right away, and then she also learned that she has to move because she was paying rent, she was paying her bills. However, the owners, allegedly, according to what we see in the show, they were not paying theirs, and so now their house is being foreclosed on, and homegirl got to move again, which sucks. She has her kids. Also, she's worried about how her youngest daughter is going to react when she learns that Keith is not coming home right now. Because, oh, when Letitia found out, honey, she told everybody. She was screaming and hollering through that office, running through that office, and I was watching it, saying, "No, no, you got to wait until you get some more information." Because you don't know what's going to happen. And this seems a little off. There's something about it that seems off. But she told everybody. And her youngest daughter, who calls him dad, refers to him as her dad, which is interesting. I don't think they've ever met in person. So that's, I'm waiting. I'm eagerly waiting to see how this one plays out. Like I said, she holds Keith down, okay? She is holding Keith down. So I hope everything works out and she and her kids can find somewhere safe to live in the meantime. But yeah, they're going to have to move. They just moved. Mm. Also, be mindful who you work with. Make sure you get as much information as you can. That's what I wanted to say. Like, girl, where you find this person? And then when it all unraveled, I said, oh, okay. Not to say that just because he was formerly incarcerated that he can't be a paralegal. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just like, he's not a lawyer. He's not an attorney. So I would imagine you would want an attorney to read over the brief that he prepared. But I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know how those things work. Just my imagination. Okay, nope, not doing that. Let's talk a little bit about Bianca and Daniel. Bianca. Bianca, so we learned in the previous episode that the scar that you see on Bianca's neck came because she sustained that injury after being involved in a serious incident. She was riding in the car as a passenger with a drunk driver. She said she didn't know the woman was drunk. She got in the car and the person allegedly was going about 80 miles per hour or something like that. And she sustained severe injuries. As a result, there was a settlement for an undisclosed amount. However, Daniel knows the amount. Daniel knows the amount. So apparently, Bianca, she doesn't work. She's living off her settlement money. Okay, cool. But let's make sure we are being responsible with said money. She got her an apartment in a different state where Daniel is going to be released because Daniel can't leave for about 90 days. So she got an apartment for about, I think, 4 months. she There's just so many things I want to say, and I'm trying my hardest not to be judgmental. I don't know if Bianca fully understands what it means for a person to have a substance abuse issue. In a lot of her interviews, she's like, I could drink around Daniel. He doesn't mind. And when she meets his family, they're like, no. Now, listen, to be fair, people who have experienced substance abuse issues, or who have, excuse me, a history of substance dependency, that doesn't mean you can never drink around them. However, if a person is new or newer to sobriety, right, because he's been incarcerated, so he's been working to get clean and stay clean while he's been incarcerated. Now he's going to be released. I imagine he's still going to need support. So, as his partner to help support him, what's the harm in not drinking around him? What's the harm in cutting back how much you drink? If you don't have a problem, what's the harm in doing that? And it doesn't mean you have to give up alcohol forever, but to support him, let's maybe put that part first, his sobriety. I just thought that was really interesting. She kept saying, I understand alcoholism, I understand substance abuse, but it didn't sound like it. And I'm not saying again that she never drink at all, never drink in front of him. But when he first is released to help support him, it could be helpful to not drink in front of his face right away. She had issues with Daniel's stepfather because it was clearly a joke. I thought it was a joke. And when he asked her over the phone, like, oh, how mentally stable are you? Well, yeah, girl, because you started writing somebody in prison and you are moving and you're like all of these things. But anyway, I thought the stepfather was making a joke. And he says that when they meet in person, he says, look, I want to apologize for that. She goes, oh, I thought you thought I was mentally unstable. He goes, that's just my sense of humor. Then they start talking about some of Daniel's past and also things that have gone on within his family. Unfortunately, his younger brother passed away due to substance abuse. So his mom is terrified that something will happen to Daniel, which is why she is hoping that Bianca could be a source of support for him and his walk in sobriety. Obviously, Bianca is not responsible for his sobriety, and yet she could absolutely be a support. What do you think of Bianca? In another scene, she was talking about how her friend, the friend she was talking to, who was asking questions that you would ask your friend if she was moving to a different state to be with somebody who was being released from prison after years of incarceration, who also has a substance abuse issue. She was asking questions. She's like, "Hey, are you sure?" And Bianca, in her confessional, was like, she's jealous of me. Jealous of what? Because you have a settlement. Jealous of what, Bianca? Come on. What do you think of all the couples? But we have so many things emerging, specifically with Shantae and True, because it looks like True has something else he's going to reveal to Shantae in the next episode. What do you think that is? Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are about these couples. Who do you think will last? I have some more thoughts coming soon, so we'll definitely include them in a different video. I would love to hear from you, so comment below and let me know what your thoughts are about these couples, what's your take on all of it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and until we talk next time, bye for now.